Mac, second sticks.
What was it?
There's smoke that came off of it. I'm not kidding.
Hey, how was the train?
Oh man, planes are so fun. Planes would have been great.
I hear you. What's going on?
Oh, I don't know. What are we doing today?
Spielberg.
Ooh.
Saving Private Ryan, Jurassic Park.
You know what? Spielberg would have gotten me a plane.
Yeah. Well,
We are
too bad.
this. When you're a stone's throw away from Hollywood, it can feel like you're maybe on the C list or the D list, maybe even an F list. But we know that if you're not on the A list, you're on the Z list. So this is Z-listers. It's where we get a group of Z-listers, if you will.
In a good way.
Yeah, Z-listers in a title, in a way that we have freedom to say whatever we want. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about Steven Spielberg.
Who?
What is there? Steven Spielberg?
I've heard of that kid.
Is that with a V or a PH?
I have a joke for Steven Spielberg. Did you hear about the guy who wouldn't stop pitching his movie ideas?
No, tell
What
us.
happened?
Yeah, he was a real Spielberg. Okay.
You're doing
It
good.
was.
Thank you.
Okay. It was bad.
You know, but
You're doing good.
the world needs bad jokes sometimes. Okay, let's get focused, guys. We have to
Yes.
talk about an American treasure. No, not treasure. What is he? American classic.
Classic.
So Spielberg, there's so many films, so let's just narrow it down. Let's go around. What is your favorite Spielberg film?
Jaws.
Jaws. And what about Jaws do you?
I mean, it's engaging on every level. But it doesn't make you think that hard. But I mean, it's just a good story, and it was made well, even though the actual shoot was apparently a complete disaster. So it's like you never know that a little indie movie that any one of us could work on one day that we wanted to jump off a cliff the whole time. It turns out to be something that's loved by a lot of people.
That's how the Fire Fest got made.
And that shark was not a cooperative actor.
Yeah.
It was had some problems with that shark. It was always like, we're going to need a bigger shark, I think, on this thing. Then Steven Spielberg was saying that he was so glad on his next project that he could get all of his crew off the water because everybody was so seasick shooting on the water and everything. So.
Oh, Lord.
We actually have a local guy who worked on Jaws.
Really?
Jim Contner. At the end of his career was a director of photography and director, but at the time he was the first camera first assistant on Jaws, and now he lives here in Richmond. So.
Wow.
Interesting. Tamara.
I really love The Post. I saw that most recently. I really loved the story on that. Again, I'm just amazed with things that I think I'm a pretty educated person, and I'm so amazed to find out, that the United States was sitting on the Vietnam War for these 20 years, while all these soldiers are going off to war, and they knew they couldn't win it. It was just like,
Yeah, the post was great.
Is that your favorite?
Well, I'm gonna throw a curveball at y'all on this.
Great.
One. I love all Spielberg films, and I think we all discussed that. You could throw a dart at a blank wall and be like, "Oh, that's a good one." But
Some of them were bad. War
Some
of
of
the
them were
Worlds
bad.
was a real clunker.
It was a clunker, but I will watch it when it comes on TV. I will watch World of Worlds. I will. But Hook is one of my favorites.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a classic, and Dustin Hoffman, the late great Robin Williams. I just I was a big Peter Pan fan as a kid, and just watching the story of Hook, kind of come to life, and just we were talking about how he brings stories to life just in such an intriguing way, but Hook was so imaginative. You know, it was just so playful.
Yeah.
You know, and everything about it was just like, oh, I want to be there. You know, and, that's like one of my all-time favorite Spielberg movies.
It's my turn again, right?
Yeah.
So Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
Ooh.
Oh,
My
yeah.
gosh,
That's
you know,
my
such an early rendition. I was seeing some documentary where he had no idea when he was going in there and building this hangar about how he was going to build this spaceship, what it was going to be. And he was actually on an airline flight looking out the window at night and saw like the San Fernando Valley all lit up. And he was like, well, that looks like the bottom of my spaceship. And so that's what they did. They took that and flipped it and put it up on the bottom of that spaceship. And that's so all throughout the filming, everybody's looking up. The actors are like going, has anybody asked Steven yet what we're looking at? Everybody's looking up. But I thought it was kind of fascinating because here we are today with all of our cell phones, you know, able to take pictures, videos. And at the time, you know, all we had was this big secret that the government was keeping from us about this Hangar 81 in Roswell, New Mexico, about these extraterrestrials. So it was so great to go kind of to delve into this this forbidden area and for him to come up with this story of E.T. or Close Encounters. And so it's a great story of this family and this, you know, this mundane life that that Richard Dreyfuss is leaving with these families and these kids and these annoyances, and that he actually leaves his family is just amazing.
Spoiler alert.
Oh yes.
We haven't had
seen
time to
it
watch
yet.
that one yet.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, yes.
Never heard of
So
it.
he like walks
Some sort of
up and
obscure
goes
title.
off. And it was fascinating also to hear that was kind of the birth of E.T.
Yeah.
When they bring this alien down with all of these little girls who are dressed up as these little aliens, that this E.T. structure kind of comes back later, kind of like an ambassador. So it's kind of interesting that seed was planted so long ago in that original
The Easter eggs.
production, and for E.T. to come back. And that brings us to product placement, the master of product placement.
Did you know that Reese's Pieces they became a thing because of E.T. And like they weren't really a product that, I mean, I'm saying the secondhand and I can't remember the facts. So, but
you're right.
I know I'm right. Yes.
So they were
Rumor has
out,
it.
but they weren't popular,
Right.
Because M&M still had the big market share, but at that movie they went through the roof.
Right.
And my favorite Spielberg movie, by the way, is Minority Report.
Yes.
Number one, because I worked on it. Number two, because I was in it.
Nice.
And number three, I think that movie has just aged really well because it is a prescient look at the surveillance state. And the more we read about data breaches and companies spying on us, I think it just becomes more and more obvious that's where we're headed for sure.
Yeah. But tell us about the time that you were in Minority Report.
Oh, well, so it was sort of accidental, actually. There's a scene in the movie where Tom Cruise breaks the female psychic out of her thing.
Yes.
Samantha Morton's character. And they're driving in this Lexus, and that Lexus, by the way, was like over $100,000. The car was, and they drove it across on its own trailer from Los Angeles to film it. But anyway, they're driving in this Lexus up Massachusetts Avenue in Georgetown, and the camera's looking in on Samantha Morton, and the DP was Janusz Kaminski, and I was a set PA on that movie, and we were over in this parking lot just kind of milling around, and I asked Sergio Mimica, the first AD, I'm like, do we need to tuck in as this car is driving up? He's like, don't worry about it because they're looking in on Samantha Morton, so you're just doing whatever you're doing. And so they're driving up the street and they're filming, and I'm like, okay, great. And then I watched the movie, and yes, they're looking in on Samantha Morton, but there's a reflection, and you see my dumpy ass walking around with a walkie-talkie, and I'm just kind of milling around. And so it's right as you watch that scene, if you see a dumpy guy in a white shirt, and I think I had red shorts or something like that, that's me. Just
Nice.
milling around at this parking
I
lot.
love it.
Yeah.
Red
Yes.
shorts.
Yeah.
Why did they have to bring the car in from Los Angeles? Aren't there Lexuses in DC?
Because it was a custom-built car,
Yeah.
and so they had to drive it. It was so low to the ground. Like, we actually filmed a scene down in Gloucester, Virginia, and the house they filmed at, where the Lexus, Tom Cruise pulls up in this Lexus, they actually paid to have the person's driveway completely redone.
It's amazing how finances and
Yeah.
money.
Right.
But the driveway, it was too high. It was
Yeah.
gravels, and they paved his entire driveway for free so that car could pull in a 5-second shot.
Dang, that's how you do it.
Right, but this
Yeah.
is what I want to see. I want to see Steven Spielberg do a movie on a micro budget.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it could be when I had the pleasure of acting in Lincoln when it came here to Richmond,
wow.
and I was a day player, just like did like some background for like an African American soldier, but I got to be on set almost like 3 weeks. It was intensive, but I'll never forget there was a scene, and he needed clouds, like he needed overcast, right? Like he needed it to like
Steven
it was
needs clouds.
he needed clouds.
Yeah,
you
someone
know?
calling the
And,
clouds.
You know, and that's basically
Send in
like,
the
and I
clouds.
just remember being on set and like in the distance you saw like a bunch of guys like standing on this hill, and there were like these big barrels of hay, just like big barrels of hay, and he was like, bring in the clouds, and they light this hay on fire. I mean, like it was probably, I don't know, maybe half of 50 yards of hay.
Yeah.
And he literally lit it on fire, and just smoke comes barreling over
Wow.
top of the cloud. And these big fans behind, and overcast in a heartbeat.
But why
Yeah.
didn't they just use fog?
I have no idea, but I mean, it was drastic. I
Let's
mean,
just make
where
a
we
fire.
shot in Virginia, we were by the jail in Virginia, like this big field. It was huge, it was massive. So the amount of fog that may have been
Yeah.
needed could have been,
Much easier to
yeah,
make
it
just
could have been
make
crazy.
a giant
But then he
fire.
also had the money too, so he was just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Creative problem solving.
What I found kind of surreal about watching Lincoln was just every 5 seconds it was like, I literally know which street corner that is. I know which room that is.
It was amazing.
You shot behind this particular building in the alley in Petersburg. It was just really strange.
Yeah. That's right.
Didn't get to work on it, unfortunately, but I know a lot of people who did. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I will say that having worked on a number of productions, that working for him is a whole different ballgame. I mean,
yeah.
you know, you were usually in and out in 12 hours or less, no matter what. I mean, he had with Spielberg
Oh, Tommy,
because
yeah.
his vision was so clear. His crew was so professional.
Yeah.
And he always had a B unit running at the exact same time. So he had a B unit director at all times. And so it was really a joy to work for. And I really will say that he was fantastic with the background as well.
Yeah.
Some directors can be really crass with the background, but he made the background feel, at least on the Minority Report, he would tell them, these movies can't get made without you.
Yeah.
And so you guys are as important as our lead actors on this movie, so thank you for your help. And I thought that was, he didn't have to say that.
There was a day that he was on set. I mean, he shook everyone's hand. I mean, like, there was a day I think we did like a battle scene. There had to easily be like over 100 of us that day. I mean, and as we were like, we got there like 4 o'clock in the morning shooting this crazy battle scene. I literally died like the very first part of Lincoln. I'm getting stabbed in the water. Like it's the very opening scene. And it was the craziest day, but he shook everyone's hand when they walked off set and thanked them, you know, and it was genuine. Like it was so, he loves what he does. Like he lives to film, you know? And I think there's a big thing, which I think you'll probably touch on, Steven the director, and then Steven the producer.
He has done a lot. He's very much a genre director, and you know the man covers a lot of territory. Minority Report was for me. It was one of those. It was one of the first sci-fi films, other than Men in Black, where I identified with the world. Like the allegory of what was happening was very clear to me.
Yeah.
And I think it was as like a teenager, you know, it was the first time that I felt like.
He works for the government?
Yeah. I worked for the government, and there were what, 3 girls in a tank?
Yeah, in those immersion tanks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what the government
I was
is
thinking
keeping
like
from
a
us.
rolling tank.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking like, are we talking about
Kinda went
Fury?
Oh, I see.
okay.
We're,
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I was
That's
like a
where
real
those
tank.
tanks coming in there.
let's bring it on back. Steven Spielberg, he's a master storyteller. What makes him so great about story?
I think he just follows the classic, like, you know, the hero's journey. That's like, you know, if you want a good hero's journey that everyone is going to identify with and love, you know, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. And the thing is, people unerringly love that. It's never not going to work. So I think he just kind of, you know, he knows how to structure that story and he sticks to it. What I've found interesting is that, like, when I think of Spielberg, I think of, you know, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, Jaws, like all these things that included a lot of like art and creating a lot of things, and it's like that doesn't really exist, but let's make it anyway, like these big ideas. But then you've got stuff like Minority Report and Lincoln and War Horse and The Post, and it's like those, I keep like The Terminal, and I'm just like, wait a minute.
Tintin.
Yeah, it's like, oh wait, Steven also did that?
Yeah.
And it keeps confusing me because I'm always just running into another movie. It's like, oh, Steven Spielberg did that one too?
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like, you know.
Well, I do think that he and George Lucas are very much tied together in the way that their movies change with, like, they're part of the invention of cinema. Like the scene on the beach at Saving Private Ryan, that film wasn't possible until that time.
God, that scene gets me, man.
That
Yeah,
is
that's
an
Every
incredible
time. I was watching it
scene.
the other night. You cannot watch it.
I mean, even
watch it.
underwater,
Oh,
all of these bullets
Yeah.
flying through and piercing these soldiers underwater. It was just incredible.
Yeah. So I actually traveled to Normandy after that movie came out and stood on Omaha Beach. And you look up at and the pillboxes are still there.
Yeah.
And you look up, and having had that cinematic experience, which wasn't anywhere near the real life thing, obviously, but it's the closest any of us will ever get to it. You know, you have so much more of an appreciation of what those guys went through. And you go to the American Cemetery up there, and you see these thousands of graves of these guys that laid down their lives. And it was just, for me, I thought that movie was just extremely, it was something that needed to be made, because I don't think anybody really understood, outside of a sort of a academic sense, what the guys went through to really go through that landing.
We're actually going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. We're here on Z-Listers, and we're discussing Steven Spielberg. We were just talking about Saving Private Ryan. My memory of that, I mean, the opening beach scene, which we said is one of the most important, it was definitely put into the canon of the past 25 years, most important scenes in cinema.
Yeah.
I remember growing up when we talking to World War II veterans, and one guy had come to visit our school, and someone asked that question about watching that beach scene, and all of the men went silent, and they were like, "We can't watch it." And wow. I mean, you know, who couldn't, having lived through it?
Yeah.
But it is that realistic and that affecting.
Yeah. I heard a story, I don't know if this is true or not, but I definitely heard that there was a scene in that movie where Ed Burns has to throw a grenade. And he misses his cue and throws it, and they have to do the scene over, and he goes to Steven Spielberg and says, "I'm sorry I messed that scene up." And Spielberg goes, "No problem, I've just got to reset the entire Irish army over here. It's going to cost us about $10,000, that's okay. But make sure you nail it the next time." So, but I think that, you know, he didn't say that to be a dick. I think he just said it to be like, look, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Major motion.
Yeah, so get your scene down and get it done. But I think that attention to detail, you know, he could have cut away from it or done a different scene entirely, or splice something in, but he wanted that. He felt that was an important scene to have in there. Yeah. So
that's what I think about a lot, is the force of personality and vision it takes to make a major film like that and say, hey, I have a very clear idea in my head. Everyone, we need $10,000 and we need this entire crew to reset.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly you need a lot of energy and a lot of vision in order to, I mean, even feel like you have permission to make people do that. Yeah.
Well, and I thought that was something when he took over the directing of AI, right? When Stanley Kubrick passed away. I thought, who would have the chutzpah and just the gall to think they could step into Kubrick's shoes and take this movie over? You know, some people would say, well, it was a Spielberg version of a Kubrick movie. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good, but I definitely think that you've got to have a lot of confidence and enough belief in your own vision to think you could match some other world-renowned auteur's take on something.
Yes. I actually have a film professor when I was an undergrad who very much hated Steven Spielberg, and I think that there is
A lot of film
Haters gonna
professors
hate.
do hate Steven Spielberg. And, you know, on the other end, people who are in the process, like are part of the filmmaking process, generally love Spielberg because it is about the spirit of invention. You know, like how crazy can we get, or how intense can this set get? How much of the theatrics can we do? But I wonder if you boil down his stories, I think my professor's point, if I'm remembering this correctly, was that they're more moralistic and they boil things down to very simplistic terms. I've specifically Schindler's List. It's very easy for Americans to watch that and be like, yes, Germany was bad, bad Nazis. But exploring the nuances of how evil takes place, or how evil manifests itself in the world, I don't think that's what Steven Spielberg is actually doing. But Dave, you worked with Steven.
Yeah, and I actually went to great lengths to do so. Minority Report was the movie I'd mentioned before. And they were interviewing people down in Gloucester, Virginia, where they did a lot of scenes. And I was interviewing the production coordinator, and she's like, "Well, you know, we don't have housing," because I was also a Z-list production assistant. And she goes, "We don't have housing, so do you have somewhere in the area to stay?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I do. I've got friends down here." I had nobody. I'd planned on sleeping in my car, but we were our base camp was in this Holiday Inn, and so. In the production office, which was basically a giant conference room, they had these tables that the hotel provided, and they had tablecloths on them. So every night, I would be the last one in because I was a hard worker, and I would lock the door, and I would crawl under the table, and I had a little pillow I went to Walmart and bought, and I would just snooze away, and then I would set my alarm for like 5 a.m., whatever the half hour before the earliest call time was, and I'd get up, and I'd turn on the lights, and I'd do some tapping on the keyboards. And so when the production coordinator walked in, she's like, "Oh my God, you're the hardest worker I've ever seen in my life." I'm like, "I just love this movie, and I love Mr. Spielberg, and I believe in this vision." And so that was it. So
Steven inspires creative invention. That is creative problem solving, my friend.
It was good.
But let's be fair. And we were just talking about how Steven is willing to throw $10,000 at resetting a shot, but cannot put this gentleman up in a hotel room. Can't put a poor production assistant in a hotel room.
He has dreams, you know.
Yes,
he's got to.
that's right.
He had to work. He had to sleep in that closet. What was it, like a closet that he slept, like a janitor's closet? Or
Steven
something that he slept
Spielberg
in for a while?
trying to save up or something?
That's the plot of Good Will Hunting. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been Z-Listers, and we'll see you again soon.
Hollywood hills are greenish brown, and everything seemed to be so strange. Come from the coast again, and everything seemed to move so slow. When I watch them, there they go, there they go. Walk around now, wander around my Hollywood hotel. They're so strange, my Hollywood hotel. And my cigarette half burned, and the smoke dances around my hand. The church sign's gonna light the sky.